What's up guys, C2113 here, and in today's video, I'm going to be telling you guys about the one thing that's a downgrade when you go from the Z Fold 3 to the Z Fold 4. Alright guys, so as I'm sure you saw in the title, this video is going to be about the one flaw that I think is in the Z Fold 4 that's not in the Z Fold 3. So first I want to say that this is not a full review. If you want to see my full review, if it's depending on when this video is published, if it's already up, I will leave a card above if you want to check out my full review. Second, I want to say this isn't a video of me bashing the Z Fold 4. I love the device. It's my main phone now. I've put my SIM card in here. This is my phone. So I want to make that clear. And lastly, I will say that there is a workaround and it will be later in the video. Now that being said, this might be a long video, although I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible. I know I talk a lot, so if you want to skip around, as always, I'll leave the timestamps in the description and there'll be the chapters that you can skip through. So feel free to skip around, but I will try and be as thorough as I can so that if you do want to watch the whole thing, you really understand where I'm coming from and why it is I feel the way I do, and why I think if you watch the whole thing, you'll feel the same way I do by the end of the video. All right, so first, to understand this issue, we basically have to understand what Samsung changed from the Z Fold 3 to the Z Fold 4, okay? So at its simplest, we're not gonna talk about all the under the hood changes, the cameras, the better screen, the stronger display, the better battery life, the thinner hinge, any of that stuff. We're going to talk about the one thing that everybody's talking about, right? The front cover display being wider. So that's in all of their advertising materials. So everybody, I think, understands that the front display got wider. However, something I think that nobody really is talking about that much, even tech reviewers, is the fact that the screen has gotten shorter too. Not by a lot, but a noticeable amount, right? And on the surface, you might say, well, who really cares? I mean, after all the reviewers have been saying is, oh, this phone is so tall and look how tall the front screen is. And I really wish the front screen wasn't so tall.
It's a very tall aspect ratio that makes the top pretty difficult to reach.
Guys, nothing bothered me more than watching reviewers describe the Z Fold 3 as tall. This phone is probably at least a quarter inch shorter than the S22 Ultra and even the S22 Plus. And definitely like the Note 20 Ultra and stuff like that. I mean, this is not a tall phone. So if we're gonna describe this phone as tall, then I'm guessing the S22 Ultra and the S22 Plus are gigantically tall. But I've never heard any reviewer describe it as such. And so I think right now that language has to change. And that's because when you do something to the front display, in this case, Samsung made it wider, but also shorter, it's a foldable. You can't defeat the laws of physics. And so what happens to the outside happens to the inside. And so let's take a look, because that's where the problem is. Let's open up our displays here. Okay, here's the problem. The vast majority of content that we consume, whether that's videos, TV shows, games, and movies, is going to be some form of widescreen. Now it varies, and cinematic, movies type content is going to be maybe super wide, but generally speaking, it's at least 16:9. I know all of my videos are recorded, edited, and uploaded in 16:9. Here's the problem. Neither of these displays is 16:9, but I'll tell you which one is closer. It's the Z Fold 3. This screen is pretty close to 4:3. This screen is further away from 4:3, enough to be noticeable. So in this view, in portrait, the Z Fold 4 actually has an advantage because the screen is wider. So the image that you see here in portrait is actually wider and bigger than the Z Fold 3. It's not noticeable to a huge degree, but you can see, I have the top of the video lined up and you can see the bottom is clearly going down further than on the Z Fold 3, and the image itself is bigger and nothing's cut off, right? But of course, we don't want to watch our videos like that. Most people want to watch videos in full screen with the biggest possible image. And there is the first sign of trouble. if you take the phones and you put them side by side, you'll notice that the Z Fold 3 has a larger image. Now it's not huge, but it is there. Furthermore, you'll see that the black bars on top and bottom of the video are bigger, significantly so, on the Z Fold 4. Now I want to state, because somebody is going to complain and say, well, it's an OLED screen. Who cares if there's black bars? You're not going to see them because they don't light up like an LCD. That's true. But the thing for me isn't that the black bars are bigger, because that wouldn't be a concern for me. It's that the image is smaller. Because again, if they had made the front display wider without making it shorter, then this wouldn't affect the size of the image, because the surplus of screen real estate that is occurring because of the weird aspect ratio of the Fold series, it's not the height, right? We don't have black bars on the sides. We have black bars on top and bottom, right? So if they had kept the height the same, or better yet, made it taller, even just a little bit, it would have drastically improved the area of the screen that would be viewable in a video that isn't cut off. Because obviously we can crop in. And that is another place where it becomes more apparent. So if I crop in, you'll see on the Z Fold 3, you can still see the E in Huawei, right? Right there. On the Z Fold 4, you can't even see the full W. And that really starts to show you just how much of the image is getting cut off. But you might still say, well, I don't really care, right? I'll watch the video like this. I'll just watch it in portrait. That's fine. But the place that I think you'll really start to notice this is if you play games. And I get that not everybody plays games, but this is still something to be cognizant of. So if we go into a game, we'll say Minecraft. All right, guys, so here we are in Minecraft. And again, I don't know if it's going to be as apparent on screen, but I'm going to try and line this up. Let's see here, so that we're about the same distance away from some grass. And I guess here. So if we're about the same distance away, your field of view is significantly narrower on the Z Fold 4, to the point where I find it extremely uncomfortable to play, because I feel like I'm playing the game while looking through like a hallway or something, like a narrow hallway or something. And it's just disconcerting and it's not as enjoyable to play. And that's just with Minecraft. If we go into something more action-packed, like Call of Duty, you run into all kinds of problems. So here we are loading Call of Duty, and you can see based on the background there, look at that. So this is a Z Fold 3. You can see that neon sign in the background there. You can see pretty much all of it. In the Z Fold 4, more than half of the letters are cut off. So again, this is affecting your field of view. So I couldn't get Call of Duty to load. I have to download updates for it. I don't really want to sit here waiting for the phones to update. So the last thing I'm going to show you is a game that I really enjoy. Some of you guys might find it annoying because it's one of those games where you're basically just grinding the whole time to like build up points and that sort of thing. And it's kind of a game that encourages you to pay to win sort of thing. But I never pay for it. I enjoy just grinding on it and occasionally playing it and then building up what I need to win. But it's called Hempire. And it's essentially a game about growing cannabis. And so we'll load it on both screens, but you can see already. So look at the telephone pole or power line pole right there, and you can see the difference in how much is visible of that, right? And again, you might be saying, well, it's such a small amount. So let's take a look, right? So this one, granted, this one's already further into the game, and this is like I transferred over my account, so this would be where it starts. But you can see it's cut off, and this is the Z Fold 3. Home sweet home, blah, blah, blah. Look at that, right? So you can see, but you can read everything, even that last comma, right? And so I can hit this, and you can see, even there, it's trying to say Uncle Danny, but that's cut off, right? So already, now let's look here. This is even worse. right? Because these are super edge buttons and they're cut off. So if I hit here, we'll go back. Look at that. He pops up, he's saying something. I can't even read what that says. I think it's saying little old us, right? But I can't even see that letter, right? And the whole, like a good quarter of the button, the continue button, is cut off. Again, this isn't cool, right? This makes it an objectively worse playing experience. Look, we can take a look, right? Look at how much of the button is available here. The whole button is visible. On here, it's cut off. This is cut off. If I continue, look, hook us up with that dank bud. I can't even read that. I'm assuming that says got, but you can see what I mean. This is cutting off a significant portion of the game. And so what are you supposed to do? Well, enough of complaining about this problem, because either A, you don't care at all, and this is a complete non-issue to you, and that's great, right? I really do love this phone, so I don't want you to think that I'm saying that this is,
oh, well, it's a piece of crap. You gotta, oh my god, this phone is so terrible. You might as well just return it.
Obviously, I love this phone, or else I wouldn't be using it. However, this is still a problem, and if you play games, this could make them objectively less enjoyable. And if you watch content, this probably won't affect you as much. But if you play games or even use applications that are designed for a wider screen aspect ratio, you might run into problems with the performance of some of the UI elements on the display. And this is where the workaround comes in. I don't really have a solution for the content. The content is going to take up the space it takes up. So I can't make the screen a different shape. So when it comes to just video watching, you're just going to have to deal with a slightly smaller image and slightly larger black bars. But when it comes to working with games, here's what you need to do. So we're done with the Z Fold 3 now. So on your Z Fold 4, you're going to go to settings. Then you're going to find display. And you're going to scroll down. And then you're going to find full screen apps. This is where you can change the aspect ratio of your apps and force them into a different aspect ratio. So for the demonstration here, I'm going to do both Minecraft and Hempire. So I'll go ahead and find Hempire, and the one you want is 4:3. Now you could do 16:9, but that's going to be much, much smaller. That's going to essentially be like that YouTube video in landscape. It's just going to be like this smaller rectangle in the middle. Most games and apps can still be played in a 4:3 aspect ratio. It's not ideal, and for something like Call of Duty, I might actually encourage you to use 16:9. But here, and for most apps and games, 4:3 should be okay. So essentially, we're going to make sure we select 4:3. And I'll do the same thing for Minecraft. Select 4:3. Now for the Z Fold 3, we're going to leave it the same because this screen is closer to 4:3, and then we're going to do a comparison here. So now I've got it set to 4:3, and we'll go back. We'll start with Minecraft. Okay, we're loading in Minecraft here. And as you can see, we already have an improved field of view. So as you can see here, it feels much wider, and it's a little bit easier to look around and play the game. Oh my God. So, what do we lose? Well, I don't know if you can see, but we do lose a little bit of screen down here because this just becomes a black bar, or in this case, a bar that's translucent, that's displaying your wallpaper. And for some reason, there's a little bit towards the top too. I don't know if you can see that. But what we do gain is playability. And for me, this is still a much larger experience than a standard smartphone, so I'm still willing to live with this. However, if we compare it to the Z Fold 3, we do gain slightly more width and sort of field of view, but we do lose a little bit of size. And that is the unfortunate part. As you can see, you do lose some of the size of the screen because you're adjusting the aspect ratio. However, I would say that most people would be willing to accept this to increase the playability of games on the Z Fold 4. Now let's compare this to that Hempire game I was just telling you about, right? Let's go back to that. Look at that. So on the Z Fold 3, that's how much you can see. On the Z Fold 4, look how much more of the power lines you can see. Now, what do we lose? We lose a little bit of the game on the bottom. You can see it's showing just a translucent bar that's sort of showing my wallpaper in the background. But what do we gain? Let's take a look. So on the Z Fold 3, this is the standard. We already saw that. You can see the comma and you can see the full button, but part of the speech bubble is cut off. Let's take a look here. So remember before where this button was getting cut off? Not anymore. You can see the full button. Go back and look at that. You can see the entire message that he's saying. Hey man, don't forget about little old us. The whole thing is visible, the button, everything. Before, I couldn't even see the full word us. Let's go next. Hook us up with that dank bud you got. Look, again, you can see the whole text box. Not even just, I can see all the text. I can see the full message. And obviously the button's not cut off. And while yes, you get a little bit of a black bar down here, and for some reason, I don't understand, in Samsung's UI, when you select a different aspect ratio, it leaves a slight bar at the top, as you can see. And so I can move around the map. I have a nice field of view. I don't feel like I'm boxed in like this. And in a sense, you have a wider field of view on here now than you do on the Z Fold 3. Now, obviously the disadvantage is you do have a slightly smaller total image because the screen itself is shorter. You have to work within the laws of physics here, right? If you make the image smaller to get more width, you're gonna lose some height. So that's just what happens here. But again, this isn't just true of games. There are some apps that probably won't play very well with the even more square aspect ratio of the Z Fold 4. And in that case, this workaround works as well. Hopefully, it becomes more clear now that your field of view between the both is much more similar. And again, the only thing it really costs you is a slight bar at the bottom. Now, is this my ideal solution? No. In fact, I would prefer they kept the aspect ratio of the Z Fold 3, but this is certainly workable. And so until such a time that Samsung is willing to accept that if you're going to buy a $2,000 or $2,000 plus, depending on how you option it, phone that folds, they should set it up to have a better aspect ratio and not simply cater to people complaining about how tall the front display is. This is the best solution. Now, obviously, I hope that day comes when Samsung's design team realizes that this is an objectively less than ideal experience for the customer. This is objectively worse. And considering that the main display is the biggest selling point of the Z Fold series, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to compromise the inner display's aspect ratio in the name of whatever they wanted to do to the front. And I don't even think they have to. I mean, we already discussed how they could have easily made they kept the ratio. Basically, they could have lengthened the phone the same amount that they widened it, right? So if they made the phone wider by 3 millimeters, then they make the phone taller by 3 millimeters. And I get it, right? People are gonna complain and say, oh, it's gonna be heavier. Well, guys, this is a folding phone, all right? So anyway, enough of my rant though. That's the solution. And hopefully, if you guys have run into this issue, finally, I haven't seen anyone else talk about it. So if you have watched this whole video and you now feel vindicated because you felt like you were the only person complaining about the objective downgrade in the aspect ratio of the inner display, definitely hit that like button. And if you've had any experiences of your own or any other workarounds that you know of to maximize the viewing/playing experience on your Z Fold 4, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. As well, if you agree or disagree with me on this and you think that I'm stupid and that this square aspect ratio is better, or if you agree and you think I'm absolutely right and this is a step backwards, I want to hear about it in the comments below, so definitely leave that there. And as always, if you want to see more, including more videos on the Z Fold 4, definitely don't forget to get subscribed.